Even though we stopped using the whole lifelong iPhone user switches to titles 2 years ago, I still seem to live rent-free in people's heads, like Rob Placey. And you might be surprised to hear that I actually agree. I am also tired of this, along with so many other clickbaity formats on YouTube, which are, unfortunately, just the way the world works for, well, a lot of social media platforms today, not specifically YouTube. So in this video, I wanted to do something a little different. I am challenging 2 of my lifelong iPhone user friends here to switch from iPhone to an Android phone of their choosing for the next few weeks. I am also going to explain why most tech YouTubers keep switching from iPhone to Android and then back again. And then we get to see what problems or maybe even what revelations my team had with their own switching experiments.
The migration was probably like the hardest bit.
Yeah, so onboarding was basically seamless.
Okay. The rules are simple. We are in a fairly fortunate position here where we happen to have a variety of Android phones available to choose from.
Oh.
Anywhere from flips to folds to the big 2, Google and Samsung, but also through to some of the best alternative options. Phones that lead with fun and interesting designs first, to other phones that are stuffing all of the latest technologies into some pretty compelling flagship killers. They can pick any phone, and at the end of this challenge, they will have the option to keep the phone if they so choose to. Okay, so Matt is the first victim, and here we have in front of us a selection of a few different Android phones, lots of Samsung phones, a couple of others kind of out there for some variation as well. You are coming from an iPhone 17 Pro, so one of us is coming from a very latest gen, and one of us is coming from an older generation phone. So in terms of the Android devices we have in front of us, we have a bit of a selection. We have the latest flagships from Samsung, the S26 Ultra. We also have the Z Flip 7 and the Z Fold 7. We also have the Z Flip 7 FE, but it is like half the price of the Z Flip. It kind of makes no sense in why we'd choose that over the actual kind of main Flip 7. We do have the S25 Edge, which is like the iPhone Air, I guess is the easiest way to describe that one. We also, for whatever reason, have a budget option as far as Samsung goes, which is the A56 5G model. So this is their budget range of Android phone. And then in terms of like the non-Samsung stuff, we have a couple of nothing phones just because they have like their unique design language, which is pretty unique, looks very cool. This one very much taking inspiration from the iPhone's plateau of the iPhone 17, so that might be of interest. And then we also have 2 of, or 1 of maybe, the best phones of the year as far as MKBHD and Mr. Who's the Boss were declaring it, is the OnePlus 15, which is a very, very heavy-hitting phone as far as all specs are concerned. And then the Oppo Find X9 Pro, which is essentially the same as the OnePlus, but with the Hasselblad partnership and a marginally bigger battery life. So I don't know if you want to have a bit of a look around and see what your thoughts are. Are you drawn to any one particular phone to start off with?
So I don't think I've ever owned an iPhone that feels slow.
That would instantly put out the Samsung, the budget Samsung, which we are talking about, an older generation Exynos 1580. So I would say that instantly puts that one out.
So definitely something that we've spoken about before. I love the design of the nothing phones. Being an iPhone user since the very first iPhone, there's not been much to entice me towards other manufacturers. I've always kind of felt that Samsung has maybe copied as harsh, but certainly from an iPhone user's perspective, it just seems like, oh, okay, what is Samsung taking from the iPhone this year to copy a design language? That's probably very wrong.
I think Samsung, I mean, they've had their the format of their S26 Ultra hasn't changed similarly to the iPhone's format hasn't changed. So, I mean, they haven't copied the whole the plateau thing, have they? But they've kind of found their format and stuck to it. People are getting bored of the Ultra's design. They seem to just, again, change the smallest things every year. But yeah, nothing's definitely got an interesting design. In terms of how that compares to your phone, let's go with the Pro, which is this one to start off with. You get no wireless charging with either of the nothing phones. So that is definitely something you sacrifice. There's no wireless charging, therefore no magnets to, MagSafe batteries.
And I do use wireless charging at the bedstand. It's stuck onto a MagSafe charger at the side of the bed.
Okay.
Not that wired charging is a problem.
But this is the whole thing. This is one of the issues that a lot of iPhone users have is MagSafe accessories. I've got a MagSafe charger in my car, again, at my desk, at my bedside table. So as far as MagSafe chargers or phones with MagSafe charging, none of them have the Qi 2.2 magnets built in. However, both the Oppo and OnePlus sell OEM cases that have magnets built in so you can carry on using them. Same with the S26 Ultra. But thanks to, so they have their own cases, but also case sponsor for this video, Magback has a case now for the S26 Ultra and the regular S26. And speaking of phone cases, most people I know want to protect their fairly expensive tech with a case. One that protects from drops and scratches and all of the usual stuff. But this one from Magback includes a bunch of hidden features which turn a regular case into an everyday essential. Things like a built-in magnetic kickstand, a tuck-away finger loop, a pinky pillow that both makes it comfortable to use and prevents water from getting in the charging ports, an included screen protector, and the best of all, strong magnets that let you stick your phone to any magnetic surface. Now, they also have a 3-in-1 charger that works for Samsung, Google, and iPhone that lets you charge your Samsung Watch, your phone, and earbuds all at the same time, and with little status LEDs that fade away to make it great for your nightstand. I also love their wallets too, and I have personally used Magback products now for well over 5 years, and they're always my first go-to when buying, well, any new phone. And because of this, they agreed to sponsor this video, and you can pick one up using the QR code or link down below and get 15% off. I'm also going to throw this in here, but if you liked the S26 Ultra, but you don't like how big it is, then we can also go and get the regular size S26 or S26 Plus. It's a very minor size difference between.
Now, that is something I might be interested in, because I remember the iPhone 5 was a very good size, and I'd also had an iPhone 12 mini, which I thought was just the best size.
How does the S26 Ultra compare to your iPhone?
Well, let me...
Because you're on the regular size iPhone as well. You're not on the Pro Max, are you?
That's right, yeah. So regular size Pro, which I don't know what size screen that is.
iPhone 17 Pro is a 6.3-inch display. The S26 Ultra is a 6.9-inch display. So more close to what's going to be the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I would say. It's definitely a lot bigger to hold in your hand.
It feels much bigger.
That's what she said.
Yeah, and in terms of that reachability, if I'm using a phone right-handed, I'm never reaching that top corner.
So you could get the regular size, which brings it a lot further down, but you do lose, I believe it's one of the cameras. And we're going to then exclude the nothing phones that you like the design of. I don't want to put it in your mouth and say like these will be slow, but I feel like if you want to give your first go at Android, I feel like it has to be like you're coming from a flagship iPhone, you have to go for at least a flagship chipset.
Yeah.
And these are just like slightly older, like 1 to 2 year old chipsets. So
let's get rid of them then.
Okay.
Out of the running.
It's like, is there anything drawing you towards Samsung devices specifically, or are you more drawn towards the Chinese but a lot better specs on these devices?
The cameras and batteries on the Oppo and OnePlus is very interesting.
So from my experience with the OnePlus, they used to have a Hasselblad partnership, and I used to post photos on my Instagram, and people used to say, what camera are you using? That looks like a DSLR. Since they've lost the partnership and this no longer has Hasselblad on it, I don't get those comments anymore. The OnePlus cameras aren't as strong this year.
Okay, yep, let's rule out the OnePlus then.
That one then. And then so that leaves us with the Oppo versus the Samsung phones, is again, it's the ecosystem. So with Galaxy devices, you have all the tie-ins with like Samsung Smart Things, Galaxy Watches, Galaxy Earbuds, tablets. They've got their whole ecosystem. Whereas currently, as far as like the experience of like the Western world, we've only just really got the phones. However, being Android, you can basically use whatever you want, because Apple, you're basically kind of tied into using like the Apple devices. Whereas I know you can connect like third-party Bluetooth headphones and things, but I would say if you want the ecosystem experience for your first-time experience, go with Galaxy. If you want just the phone and the phone like as far as like beasting the hardware specs, then it will be the Oppo.
So on form factor, although I'm intrigued by these, I'm not sure I'm that interested in a folding phone. I have an iPad, I have a laptop. I don't have many situations where I'm like, I need a big screen right now.
Even though it's the same size as a regular phone, and then you can unfold it and then suddenly, tablet, or at least bigger screen.
I'm almost tempted to try to see how often I actually open it. The Edge, I'm very tempted by it, but I think I want to give a like-for-like experience with like the free camera system on the iPhone, so I think I'll take the Edge out, and then there were three.
So you've got 3 devices, but don't forget this S26 Ultra is kind of 3 devices, so you could also have the regular S26, the S26 Plus, or the S26 Ultra. Now the S26, S26 Pluses don't have the flagship Snapdragon chip in them. For some silly reason, they're running the Samsung Exynos chip.
Tempted by the Oppo just to try it, but like you say, it doesn't have like any of the ecosystem integration that I would get from Samsung, and maybe I try the Fold.
Okay. Would you like to lock in your answer? Do you want to maybe pick it up and have a play with it?
Yeah, let me...
How it feels in the hand?
So, I mean, it's definitely very usable folded, right? It's definitely like a phone-like experience. when folded up.
It is. Another 6 months' time, we'll have the Z Fold 8. This is using last year's Snapdragon 8 Elite, I think it was. Yeah, just the last year's version of the flagship chip. So it does have a flagship chip.
I feel like it's still just a bit gimmicky. I'm not sure what's really appealing to having the larger screen, which makes me think I should probably choose just the latest and greatest, as I have done with iPhone every time I've purchased.
Fair. So does that mean Galaxy? S26 Ultra?
Yeah, I think I should go with the Ultra. Oh, it's got a pen.
And there is the S Pen, which I'm not sure how many people actually use the S Pen. Comment down below if you use it. So we're going with the S26 Ultra.
S26 Ultra, I think, yeah.
Sold to the highest bidder of the only bidder, the S26 Ultra. So my second victim is Ben. And Ben, you are slightly different because you have an iPhone 13.
Yeah.
Not the mini, but the 13, the regular 13.
Yeah.
Any of these phones, with the exception of one maybe, could be considered as an upgrade. Or actually, no, all of them would be considered as an upgrade for you.
Instantly, I'm drawn to like this one and these two.
Okay.
Based on appearance. I don't really like the blue color on here, but
okay.
I'm guessing you can get covers and stuff.
Other colors are available, and you can get covers and cases. So interesting. Do you pick your phone based on the color?
No. I usually use like the camera for like photos and videos, and then content viewing. It's like my main purposes for a phone.
So is a big screen important for viewing?
Yeah, I think it would be nice as long as it can fit in my pocket.
How about the Fold to a normal size phone? The Fold 7 is actually a very, very similar size to the S26 Ultra when it's folded. Are there any that you would immediately disregard and be like, no?
Which one has the best camera?
Cameras can be subjective. Certainly from general consensus, S26 Ultra would be, it's the Samsung flagship, so that's got great cameras. But as far as cameras go, I would say the Oppo is the best of the bunch.
Okay.
You get far better camera sensors, get a much larger battery in this phone as well.
So it's probably between this and this then at this point.
Oh, okay. So we're going to disregard some devices. Foldables, no interest. Question, if Apple made a foldable, would you be interested?
Maybe.
In fact, you are holding a foldable in your hands right now and you're like, maybe not.
Okay, how does this camera compare to like the Oppo?
The main camera is the same as the S25 Ultra's main camera. So it's a flagship main camera.
Okay.
You just then lose out slightly on the other cameras, whereas the Oppo, I believe, is 50 megapixel all round. So they are all very good.
Oh, maybe I'll try this one then. It does look pretty cool with the flip out. Yeah, maybe I'll try this one.
So not the Oppo. So you're leaning towards the Oppo as well.
I was. Oh, it's between. I don't know.
So we're going to get rid of the OnePlus.
Yeah.
We're going to get rid of the Flip because no one seems interested in the Flip.
Yeah.
And are we going to get rid of the S26?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll go between these two.
You're basically going between flagship, best of the best hardware, best charging, fastest charging, biggest battery, silicon carbon battery, best cameras. It's a great phone, or the foldable experience with still a flagship chip. It's the latest Snapdragon chip, or the previous generation Snapdragon chip. Very good camera still. So you're also then going to experience Android, but foldable Android, which is just a whole other interesting thing. Like, are you bored of your iPhone? I know I'm forcing you to do this, but are you bored of it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Some people are just bored of the iPhone and they want something different, and just changing the software is good enough. Whereas some people are changing the hardware, and that's the fun thing. If you want to experience the best of the best as far as Android is concerned, in my opinion right now, then the Oppo.
Okay.
If you want to experience something fun and new with probably some of the best software, then it's Samsung.
I think this one. I'm going to try that one, the Oppo. Yeah.
So we're going to get rid of the Samsung Fold and stick with the Oppo.
I'm locking it in.
So come back in 2 weeks' time and we will see how both of these guys have got on with switching to Android. Now, whilst the guys are getting on with their own challenges, the question and I guess legitimacy of the whole switching to Android content on social media is a really interesting one. So 6 years ago, I made my first lifelong iPhone user switches to video. I think it was like the Pixel 4a. And that was a title that was inspired by this Insider Tech video from May 2019. And since then, I, like many others, have rinsed and repeated until death because, well, as a content creator, you are told to look at the data. When you find something that performs well you do more of it. But being a content creator whose life revolves around reviewing all technology, it inherently meant that, well, as a tech creator, I quickly realized that I couldn't completely ditch one or another. So I, like many others, became one of those guys who carries around two phones. So whether I'm comparing, say, the Apple TV and Google TV, I have my toes dipped in both sides of the ocean so I can review these devices as a fan of both platforms, and then make my content as unbiased as possible, whilst also still being hyper aware that everyone has a bias, even when they're trying their hardest not to be biased. The Apple device is easy. They release one set of phones every year, so it's just an easy decision to just pick the best one they make. Now, the Android device is where the challenge comes in, because as much as I love Android and would easily daily drive one, and only one, well, we've just been through a mere few weeks of the year in which Samsung launched their S26 lineup, Xiaomi the 17 and 17 Ultra, the Honor Magic V6, the Nothing 4A and 4A Pro, the Pixel 10A, the Vivo X300, the Ultra, the Oppo Find X10 Ultra, the OnePlus 15T, and that's not even all of them. And between all of my Bluetooth devices, to things like my authenticators, to reauthorizing my business and personal banking apps, just the list of things that I need to do to fully switch to a new phone is just ginormous. Now, in some situations, like with OnePlus, whose watch hardware I absolutely love, but their software here isn't compatible with my health insurance system, which means that if I don't daily an Apple or Samsung Pixel or Garmin watch, then my health premiums increase every year and I don't get any of the benefits of the insurance. So instead, now I stick with one device that at most changes once per year, and then one fun device that changes fairly constantly. It's why I haven't properly reviewed an iPhone in years either, because, well, to me, it's still just same old story every single year. But this is why most tech reviewers all fall into this same trap, I guess if you call it that. We like Android, and I say this in all my videos. Even if you get fed up of hearing it, it is a phone. Who cares what phone you use whatever phone you want. Like, who cares if you're, favorite YouTuber goes back to another phone after the one they've just reviewed? Because as a content creator, as a reviewer whose job it is to try out a gazillion different products every single year, we don't always use the one and only best products. We do it to streamline. For example, between going to my daughter's show this afternoon, swimming lessons with my kids, and actually spending time with my family and my friends, having one phone that is just a always on, always there device, and then another one that is fun and actually interesting and different to use and changes from time to time. That is why I do this, because it is fun. Now, that's not to say that people should or shouldn't title their videos in whatever way they feel like they need to get their videos seen by the people or the algorithm. I hate clickbait as much as you do, but all we can do is scroll on and go and watch the stuff that we do want to watch. And honestly, if that isn't one of my videos because you don't agree with the way we package our videos, or maybe the title or the thumbnail rubbed you up the wrong way, then that is totally your choice. But that is why people do it, because it works consistently, because we want to stay balanced in our reviews and our comparisons, and because not all of us have all the time in the world to be constantly switching. Speaking of which, let's just catch up with our lifelong iPhone users and see how their switching experiment is going. How did the initial setup and migration and migrating everything over from iPhone, how did that all go? How easy was it for you?
The migration was probably the hardest bit, the least enjoyable bit. At first, I moved everything over from my iPhone to the Oppo with you plug it in and then it can move all your apps over and stuff. I did that on my first try, and then I realized, oh my god, there's so much crap that I don't use anymore. I'm gonna just do a fresh install. So I had loads of stuff come up Temu, and there was a bunch of other random apps gamer apps, all this random crap that I don't need.
That is one of the problems with even flagship Android phones, to be honest. There are a lot of bloatware apps, I guess you can call them, like Temu and stuff. Even on the flagship S26 series, there were things like LinkedIn was pre-installed, Copilot AI, OneDrive is installed, but then OneDrive's used to back up things too. So I guess could you not say the same thing about Apple with putting, was it Pages and Keynote and other things on iPhones technically? Even if you don't, I've not used Keynote on an iPhone or Pages or anything for a very long time, I think. But the initial transfer stuff did work at least.
It worked. All my pictures and everything went just fine, but then I decided I'm going to do a fresh install.
So, your experience was very different. You were going from an iPhone 17 Pro to a initially Samsung S26 Ultra. However, I'm using the one and only S26 Ultra that we had, and Samsung sent out an S26 base model instead of the Ultra, right?
Yes.
So you started off with the S26 Ultra. So should we start from there? Should we talk about the migration experience?
Yeah. So with the S26, I followed your very helpful video for how to set up at first, and did opt to set up from fresh.
Nice.
Rather than trying any of the migration stuff. Just from what I've heard of the experience from installing the migration app, it's very, very flaky. And it was also a good opportunity to just see what's new in the Android world. Yeah, so onboarding was basically seamless. An issue I had when going through the setup prompts was I wanted to set up Google Wallet or Samsung Wallet, I think it was.
Samsung Pay on the S26.
Pay,
yeah.
But that failed for me. But I also had a similar issue with Google Wallet, so I don't know if that's actually my bank rather than either of the Android Wallet Pay
How
apps.
far through did you get? Was it adding the card and it failed at the card?
Yeah, quite literally, yeah.
Generally speaking, Apple Pay kind of supports everything. Either it's Google or the Samsung Wallet side of things. I had an issue maybe a few years ago where the wallets didn't support my banking apps or didn't my cards, but more recently those have been fixed. I'm surprised if there are still cards today that don't work, but it's interesting to hear that you obviously had problems with it.
Yeah, and definitely. And having used Apple Wallet from day one, that was very flaky at first. It would fail, and kind of similar to what I had on the Android experience, where it would basically just say that it's failed, tough luck, try again later, contact your bank.
Yeah.
Used to be like that for Apple Wallet, but now it's like, at least when you're doing it on Apple Wallet, you get the prompt to like, oh, just authorize on the banking app, and it instant click to the banking app, which is cool. And I didn't have the similar kind of experience with Android.
The camera definitely is like my favorite thing about this phone.
Nice.
Being able to shoot in like log format has been so cool. Having it in your pocket and just being able to like whip it out when you're on a walk or something, it's like really nice footage. I'm using like the pro video mode, so you have like complete control over like basically a camera in your pocket. It's crazy. And also the photos as well, like the Hasselblad?
Hasselblad, yeah. You've got such a good partnership on that phone.
Yeah, they look really good. And also, the screen is like another massive thing that I'm a fan of.
Why with the screen? Is it just because it's bigger than your iPhone? Is it just brighter colours, refresh rate? Have you noticed that it's high refresh rate?
I didn't notice, actually. I didn't think about that, to be fair.
Cool.
But now that you've mentioned it, it is very responsive and it feels very smooth. But yeah, it's bigger, it's more responsive, it's like way more vivid to look at. Yeah, it's overall a very pleasant experience.
So on the S26, there's a weird kind of mix where I think I wanted to be using Google Play. I'm basically being encouraged to sign in with a Samsung account and a Google account.
Yes.
And all I want to do is just get some apps installed. I understand I need to sign in with something for whatever reason in case I want to buy an app, but it was frustrating constantly being met with like sign into Google or sign into Samsung. Admittedly, the Samsung one was just once, but Google was quite persistent.
Have you found battery life? Because you're going from, again, this is old to new, but you've gone from a 5-year-old phone with a smaller battery to a very large phone. I think the Oppo's got a 7,000 milliamp hour plus battery in it, which is silicon carbon, so it's newer technology, basically allows you to fit a bigger battery in a smaller size. So how have you found that on the
it's
Oppo?
been awesome.
Yeah?
Really good. Yeah, I think I've charged it like 3 times.
You charged it 3 times
3 or 4 times.
The 2 or 3 weeks we've had it so far?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So amazing. Yeah, really
Pretty
good.
nuts. Okay, interesting. Started off on the Samsung S26. You've ended up on, of all the devices, a nothing phone. That's the 4A Pro, right?
Yes, the 4A Pro.
Which is by no means a flagship phone. So you've gone from an iPhone 17 Pro, flagship Apple device, to a mid-range, I would say, nothing phone over a Samsung phone. So why?
So I ran into a few annoyances with the Samsung experience, I'd say. I had changed to gesture mode rather than button mode, but every time I unlocked, I managed to open up the Samsung Wallet, which wasn't working, or the Samsung Pay app, which wasn't working for me, which would then prompt me to allow access to my phone contact book every single time I tried to unlock my phone. And it was completely user error. Like, it was just, I needed to get to the home screen a different way. But the way that I had in my muscle memory just meant that I constantly opened up a Pay app, was stuck in a notification screen that I had to try and dismiss. And I found those frustrations throughout the experience on the S26. If I was searching for an app, rather than just like having a list of search results, I was having a load of recommendations come up. Not for apps that I wanted to use, just for, oh, by the way, you can do this or you can do that. But you open up the settings app and you're prompted to then like, why don't you set up this instead?
Oh, so it's being overly helpful. It's being too helpful.
I was being bombarded with information when really what I wanted was a kind of a clean slate. I have some notes of what this was like on the Nothing phone in comparison. But I was being introduced to every feature, like every screen, regardless if I was ready to have that information thrown at me or not. So I knew about Nothing before, obviously, like we've done coverage on the channel already. Aesthetics-wise, I think it's really nice, but it was a much cleaner experience. The example, when I was doing that same searching for an app, I hadn't noticed it before for a few days of using it, but then when I searched for an app that I hadn't realised I hadn't installed yet, there was no results. So I was then prompted to say to install the Essential Search app.
Okay.
To be able to get additional results or web results. So it was only when I was in a position that when it didn't give me any results back, that it then suggested, oh, maybe if you're still looking for this thing, install another app.
Interesting. I think Nothing Essential Search is essentially their search everywhere, maybe even AI search tool.
The examples it gives for me was like web searching, and I think like the kind of photos it shows is like, oh, you searched for a popular landmark or something, so here's the Wikipedia page for it.
Interesting thing. Which is very similar to the iPhone side of things, right? I guess, I imagine it will be able to do similar things with like conversions if you want to convert like pounds to dollars or like weights and those kind of things. It just knows what you're searching for and gives you the results that you want to see.
Yeah, but it was just particularly that I didn't even know about it until I was in a position where that could have been what I was after. It wasn't at the time. I was looking for an app. But if I happened to be searching for a landmark, that was the right time to tell me that I needed to do something extra to be able to get those results, compared to like the notification screen on the S26, which was just always prompting me to set up something else or do something else.
I still can't log into my Hotmail account for whatever reason.
Okay, you're one of very few that still has a Hotmail account, I think.
Well, yeah, it's probably my own fault, but
accessories-wise, it's definitely more lacking on the Nothing, and also it's going to be the S26. I use MagSafe a lot. I use a MagSafe wallet, and my kind of little bedside table charger is a MagSafe one.
Yeah.
And so the S26 and the Nothing 4A Pro was delegated to the USB-C cable that was just on the floor next to me.
Which would have been different had you had the S26 Ultra, because you could have then got the MagBack case, sponsor of the video, to get your magnetic accessories to work. However, but they also do make one for the S26 Plus and the Ultra, just annoyingly not the base model S26. And that's how a lot of people are doing it this year. They do the phone with no magnets, but Qi2 wireless charging, and then they rely on a case to then give you the magnets.
I haven't looked into cases or anything like that for the Nothing Phone A, but I do find it suspicious it came with a clear case. That makes me think that maybe obtaining a case isn't so easy for the kind of lower end phones. I assume there's fewer accessories makers actually making accessories.
I think specific with Nothing, you're probably correct. With Samsung, there's going to be tons of accessories for the Samsung because it is one of the world's biggest selling phones.
Yeah.
Did you use any AI tools on your phone?
I've not used any AI. Oh, wait, no. Google Lens. I opened Google Lens. Does that count as AI?
Yeah. Let's go with it. Where's this going?
No, I used it on like two things. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I took a picture of like one of my speakers at home, and it was like, this is what this is. So that was kind of cool.
So not strictly AI, it's just like image search, essentially.
Right,
it's just Google image search, but in a very clever way that's just built into the operating system.
Mm-hmm.
Did you use any AI tools on either of the Androids?
No, not at all. I have the ChatGPT app and Claude installed on the... I installed them on both phones, but I just used them as isolated within their apps.
Do you use Apple Intelligence?
No, I don't use Siri. I don't use Apple Intelligence either. I think I use... So that's a lie. I've used the writing tools for Apple Intelligence, but it's almost like a glorified spell check at that point.
Yeah, fair. People actually don't really use a lot of the AI tools. So the fact that you could do things like photo manipulation, changing, like adding a horse inside a photo of your family.
I just rarely find the need to. I mean, obviously I'm missing my several hundred Genmojis that I've made on my iPhone. Not.
Okay.
An image playground, like where is that on the Android phones? But no, the AI that's useful for me is stuff like the day-to-day, the spell check ones and stuff like that, and less around image manipulation. So if I go back to the S26 quickly, and why I switched off the S26 is that there was nothing really compelling me to use it over my iPhone. I was carrying both, and I ran into so many frustrations, mainly just around wanting to do something but just being met with something else, some other prompt, some incorrect gesture I was doing that was opening the wrong thing. And the fact that it was giving me nothing over my iPhone just meant that I kept going back to my iPhone, and I realised I needed to do something, otherwise I was not really doing the test.
Yeah.
So the Nothing Phone called me to it, although it's not their flagship. And it was quite simply, obviously it was the appearance of it, but also the glyph. It was just something unique about this phone that made me want to pick it up and see what it could do. The glyph is my always on display for time.
Okay.
I always put my phone down, screen down, and have the time displayed on top.
Touch on it quickly. You mentioned about passkeys. You were having problems. What problems were you having with passkeys?
During the onboarding process, signing into apps and stuff like that, I needed to use passwords a lot. So the first thing I installed was 1Password. It has been my password manager for ages. I first had an issue with 1Password where I wanted to unlock with biometrics. And in my mind, biometric means with my face or my fingerprint or, all of that is part of my bio, whatever. And I'd only set up Face Unlock for the S26, and I was really confused that it wouldn't let me do it. And it turns out that Face isn't good enough, and I had to do a fingerprint.
So only on the Pixels do they have Face Unlock that will work for banking apps and password managers. They have just some extra security that makes it work, whereas, on most other Android phones, it will only unlock the phone, it won't unlock any other services, unlike Face ID, which has a lot more hardware in that front little pill thing that scans and does 3D depth and all sorts of things. Therefore, the iPhones are more secure when it comes to Face ID.
I knew about this 6 years ago when Face ID came out, that Android's alternative was not as secure, but I had totally assumed that they would have caught up by now and it would be a full LiDAR of your face, not LiDAR, but yeah. So after doing that was fun. I was using 1Password happily until every so often the suggested passwords would just disappear from the keyboard. And I'd go into settings and it would show there as the default password manager, but I'd have to tick it again before my password would be suggested to me, or credentials would be suggested when I go to log on to things. And then I also just always ran into an issue where Google was trying to take over, especially with passkeys. So if I tried to sign on to anywhere, I would click on my email address as suggested by 1Password. I would go onto the next screen where it was looking for a passkey, and Google Password Manager would pop up and tell me, I can't find any passkeys for you. And I could not get it to go away and just use 1Password.
So overall impressions, have you enjoyed the experience? Will you be keeping the phone?
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I've been carrying both phones around with me because I'm not fully confident with this phone yet. I'm just comfortable with iPhone at this point.
Yeah.
I've been over 10 years on iPhone. Things like it syncing with my MacBook.
Well, AirDrop.
Okay. And iMessage, getting notifications when messages come through and stuff like that.
The Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing. Yeah. But this is the thing. This is why it's kind of a fun challenge because, you don't want to switch. No one in this room wants to switch. But I'm just forcing you to try it to see, the whole, is the grass greener on the other side? I was kind of hoping that someone might come out of this being actually, this I didn't want to switch, but this is actually incredible, I'm going to switch.
I've been carrying both around, so I use this for the camera and stuff.
Okay,
and
yeah.
for watching videos.
Yeah.
But then my iPhone is just there because I just know it well, and it's got those features that I couldn't get to work on the Oppo. So
if your iPhone broke, would you go get another iPhone?
I would probably get a newer iPhone with better cameras because I've realised how nice it is to have a really good camera in your pocket.
Even though they won't be as good as the cameras on that phone.
Are the newer iPhones the Pro Max and stuff with the big cameras?
They are good, and this is where half the time I say in a lot of my videos, ultimately it doesn't really matter. After that experience, I think I know what the answer is going to be. Are you going to keep an Android phone of any form, or are you going to go straight back to iPhone?
No, so I will be going straight back to iPhone. But it has been good to see, and I am also tempted to do the same test with the 3 Pro, I think.
Okay,
the Nothing 3 Pro. For the better camera. If anything, this has shown me that I do not need the pro level chips that you get with high-end devices because I've not had any performance issues, or I'm not doing anything that I think would be a real issue with the more entry-level Snapdragon chip, which is in the Nothing 4A Pro.
That's the Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, so that is a year or two old chip that's in the phone.
It works. The only letdown, the only thing that would stop me from using this more heavily would be the camera system. It's super close in the image quality that I'm getting from the cameras in a lot of situations, but I think of future-proof, and I think of a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm taking her pictures. I just want to know that I'm using the best possible camera available to me at the time, and that is what is making me go back to the iPhone, or pushing me back to the iPhone. That's why I couldn't consider sticking with the Nothing 4A.
Ben, we did finish shooting that video 2 weeks ago. You don't still need to use the Android phone, right? You still have your iPhone?
I need my Hotmail.